Amen. I'm going to review a little bit, but before I review, I'm going to go back and refer us to something else because we're using this, Samuel Snow's letters. So we had the date July 18th show up, and I just want to go back and just really quickly look through the line of Samuel Snow. So Samuel Snow wrote his first letter on February 16th, 1844, and it was published, so we'll call, maybe I'll do it this way, I'll call this 1A and 1B. So this is when it's published, on February 22. And this was published in the Midnight Cry. And I'm not going to write the republishment of it, but it was republished. Well, maybe I will. I'll do this here. So we'll call this 1C. This is April 3rd. And this is in the signs. So this is in the Midnight Cry. And this is in the signs. And then we have the first day of the first month, which is, of course, April 19th. And then we have his second letter. So it doesn't, it's not, we don't have the writing date, we only have the publishment date. And that's in the Midnight Cry. And that's on May 2nd. And then we have his second letter, or his third letter, pardon me. And this is published on June, or written on June 22nd. So this is 3A, and it's published on June 27th. And that's again in the Midnight Cry. So this would be 3B. And then we have his fourth letter, and that's published on July 18th. It's written on June 29th, but I'm not going to bother putting that in there. We'll just say this is the fourth letter. So these four letters all are dealing with the prediction on October 22nd, 1844. And so we've come to understand that what we used to call the prediction before midnight, now maybe the prediction before the close of probation. I'm not sure how to understand it now. But these dates fall on, these two fall on the Passover. This one falls on the day of the dedication of the temple. This one falls on Pentecost. And this one falls 3 days before July 21st, which is the 5th day of the 4th month. And this then is the 2nd day of the 4th month. So this one would be the 6th day of the 3rd month. This one's the 14th day of the 1st month, because that's Passover. And this one here is the 13th day, or pardon me, the 14th day of the 13th month, because the Jews kept this as the 14th day of the 1st month. That is, they thought this was Passover. But in reality, this is Passover. So I did a really quick review. How many people aren't really familiar with Samuel Snow's letters and these dates? Okay, so there's about half of you are familiar, but another half aren't. I tried to figure out the probability of these dates falling as they do in the way that they do. So falling on the dedication of the temple, the two Passovers, Pentecost, 3 days before midnight. It was kind of hard, but I know it's really unlikely that, you know, you would get his letters published on the dates that they're published, because the Midnight Cry and the signs, the Midnight Cry's published on Thursdays and the signs published on Wednesdays. And so they didn't even think about, I'm publishing a letter on Passover. They couldn't imagine, that it would even be significant, right? So this is in God's providence. And I'm going to come back to this here, but before I do, I just want to show you a little bit of what happened, and maybe we can understand it, maybe we can't, we'll see. But we were doing this line, and we had come up with 3 dates that are the 10th day of the 5th month. And this is in Ezekiel. So Ezekiel lies on his left side for 390 days, starting on the 5th day of the 4th month. And on the 90th time, so in the evening, before he's going to lie down on his left side for the 390th time, that date would be the 9th day of the 5th month. So that when he wakes up in the morning, he's on the 10th day of the 5th month. He's completed his task. And this date in our calendar is August 15th, right? So that's the date that we have as the Midnight Cry, right? The first day of the 5th month in 1844 is August 15th. And then what he does is that night, so on the 10th day of the 5th month, it says after you have completed lying on your left side for 390 days, lie on your right side. So that means that night he's going to lie on his right side for 40 days. And so you're going to have in here these 40 days. And what I look at is that these are pointing towards this event. Maybe I'll do the 40 days down here. And you got the 40 days. And these are also pointing to this event because he's flipped over. Does that make sense to people? For the people who are having that problem with how come they're not happening at the same time, he's flipped over. So now he's looking to this event from the opposite way. Does that help anybody? Okay, good. So then, this period of 40 days, this is on the 10th day of the 5th month, and this here is 592, and this is 591, and then in 590, on the 10th day of the 5th month, this is in Ezekiel 20, right? And in Ezekiel 20, it starts on the 10th day of the 5th month, and what happens on the 10th day of the 5th month in Ezekiel 20? What happens at the beginning of Ezekiel 20? Because we looked at it this morning. The elders, certain of the elders come and inquire of the Lord, and they sit down, and then he gives them a message, basically that Jerusalem's going to be destroyed, and talks about their apostasy. But they come and inquire of him. And we know, so this is a year, and then after this event, we know in 586, on the 10th day of the 5th month, Jerusalem is destroyed. And that's 4 years later. So from here, he's going to predict the siege. So the siege is going to be over here, year and a half before the destruction. I just didn't draw it in here. But when he gets to the end of this, it's going to be exactly 5 years to the destruction. And then a year later, it's going to be 4 years to the destruction. So he's continually pointing to the destruction of Jerusalem. But each of these are marked with the 10th day of the 5th month. Yes, Elder Jeff?
You have this line on the top of your handout.
Yeah.
And the date up there that you have for 590, you have 592. Is that a typo?
Yes. Yeah, so that should be 590, not 592. I just hurriedly did this today. Like,
the third line is wrong as well.
yeah, I'm sure there's lots of typos in it. So
Yeah.
You got 263s and the 120 chiasm.
yeah, that's supposed to be that's supposed to be in the 126. So yeah, there's lots of typos because my brain is kind of burnt out after today.
But is it the correct chiasm, 63 and 63, takes you to August 11th?
Yes. So the August, yeah, we'll look at these and correct my mistakes. It's actually, they're probably intentional so that you guys notice them. It's a learning trick. Yes, okay. Now, the point is these 10th day of the 5th month, they're all pointing to this, but this is not the destruction of Jerusalem. This is not the destruction of Jerusalem. This is. And so this line is starting at midnight, but it's giving this message about the destruction of Jerusalem, and so it has those 3 dates in there. So it's not a line where we say, you know, this is... You understand what I'm trying to get at. Some lines represent a waymark. So that period of time represents a point. Okay? Now, what became significant to me, which some people had difficulty with, when we got to Ezekiel 20, and we have this inquiry, well, Ezekiel 20 suggested to me the 2020, right? So we know that Deuteronomy 18:18 suggests 18:18 when Miller completes his studies. So we know that there's this precedent. But the other thing is in Ezekiel 20 we have the verses 20:12, and 20:12 is when the prediction was first made regarding 2014, which is the Sunday law. And then we also have Ezekiel 20:20, and these verses are nearly identical except that one's talking about them and one's talking about you. So one is talking in the third person, one's talking in the second person, right? I don't know if you're familiar with those verses in Ezekiel 20. But I think most Adventists are. You've probably looked at, you know, I've given you my Sabbaths as a sign between me and you. Or I've given them my Sabbaths as a sign between me and them, right? So one's a sign, actually. The other one says, here, I'll just look at them quickly. Ezekiel 20:12 says, I gave them my Sabbaths to be a sign between me and them. And then 20:20 says, and hallow my Sabbaths, and they shall be a sign between me and you. So it's pointing to the Sabbath, and we know, as Elder Jeff pointed out, that Jerusalem, if the Jews had kept the Sabbath, Jerusalem would never have been destroyed. So its destruction was the result of Sabbath breaking. Now, we then did something which is, I don't know how to do it here. So we took this date. So what we did, I'm going to erase this part here. And we went over to this line. So this is the line where we have June 15th, 120 days. That's October 13th. That's a Sabbath and a half ago. That's almost 2 weeks ago now. Where we counted 391.5 days from noon, and we came to midnight on November 9th, 2019. And so on this line, I wrote 2020, and I wrote the 10th day of the 5th month. So I'm saying, if Ezekiel 20:20 and Ezekiel 20 is pointing to the year 2020, it also must be pointing to the 10th day of the 5th month as being an event in the year 2020. So this is still, you know, we're just discussing this, and we're going to try to see, you know, what this means, because part of the struggle that we're going through is we're looking at these numbers. These numbers are, one is they're a bit difficult to remember them all, but also there's an improbability factor in some of these that it's mathematically impossible that it occurred by chance, that these are designed. Now, we came up with the date when we put the 10th day of the 5th month here as July 18th. So we know that July 18th is the second day of the 4th month in 1844. But it's on the Gregorian calendar in 1844. It's not on the Julian. But this date shows up on the Julian. And so people have had a struggle. Well, why are we using Gregorian and Julian? It's almost like, you know, if it doesn't work on one calendar, it'll work on another. But of course, the odds are still very small that you're going to get a hit on a date like that. And the reason why this is important, because when we go back here to start this line on June 15th, which is a Gregorian date, that date is the second day of the 4th month. That is, it's the same date in 1844 that is July 18th. So we have this connection of this date with Samuel Snow's letters. So then what I did is at the end of the class, Daniel suggested that I count backwards from this July 18th. So I just took this date here and I put it down here on the bottom. So I actually didn't give you this on the paper because I haven't written it yet. I was going to write it and I ran out of time. So July 18th on the Julian calendar is the 10th day of the 5th month, as we pointed out here. So I counted backwards 391 and a half days, and I came to June 22nd. So what is June 22nd on Samuel Snow's letters? It's his third letter that he wrote on Pentecost. And then I counted 120 days backwards, and I came to February 22nd. What is that date? That's Samuel Snow's first letter on February 22nd. Now, we know that there's this 126 days that occurs. And if I count backwards from here, from June 22nd, I come to February 16th, and this is 126 days. So I have that 126 days and that 120 days that we have in this line, which is not drawn in here. But if I were to draw it in, we'd have also the 126 going back to June 9th. Now this 126 days, when you split it in half, the center is August 11th. And since this is all about two things, it's about Samuel Snow's letters here, but it's also about the prophecy of Josiah Litch, because that's the structure that we're using. Is everybody following me here? This idea? Yes, Brittany.
How is it 391 and a half from June 22 to
From
July?
June 22nd to July 18th? You just counted on a calendar. This is 2020.
This is not the same year? Or are you doing
No. This is 2019.
Oh,
Same calendar though.
So one of the things is it's giving us a date in the year 2020, but it's also giving us waymarks in the year 2019 that haven't happened yet because we're not to 2019. And I don't know what this means in this context. Yes, Daniel?
Did you try midway between February 16th and June 22nd?
No, I haven't. But I would have to add 63 days, so that would bring me to I think it's April 19th, but I'm not sure. I'd have to do the math more quickly. What's that? Yeah, I haven't finished I haven't done everything yet. So, I mean, if somebody can count on their fingers and figure that out. Now, what I did is I put May 2nd here, which is Samuel Snow's second letter. And when you put May 2nd on the Gregorian calendar, it's April 19th on the Julian calendar. So, I don't know if this is halfway, because we'd have to count it. But if you go February 16th and you go 60, that would bring you to 60. Let me see, February, March, April. And that's April 19th, so it looks roughly like it might be April 19th. If it is, that would be really, really amazing. But you understand what's happened here. We have an impossibility mathematically that you're going to be able to take something that's already mathematically unlikely. So you have to add the odds of Samuel Snow's letters, and now you have to take them to this line and see something that each time you have a date you multiply it by 365. And then that starts to give you these types of odds. So you get huge impossibilities. Yes, Daniel?
If you go ordinal,
Yeah,
from February 16 being number 1,
yeah.
it's April 19.
Okay. So there we go. And that's how you have to do it with Samuel Snow's letters. You don't start with 0, you start with 1. So we have this, this April, and these are all Julian dates, okay? So this is a Julian date, February 16th, Julian date, February 22, Julian date, April 19th, which lines up with May 2nd. Julian date June 22nd, and the Julian date July 18th. This is exactly a replication of Samuel Snow's letters. And if you were going to calculate the odds, you'd have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you take 365 and multiply it 5 times, right? That would roughly give you the odds. There's other things just for this itself.
Exactly. But Samuel Snow's doesn't possess the 391 and a half days.
No. So the only difference is that Samuel Snow doesn't have this space of time here. His July 18th is in here, right? It's in that same year. This has moved it into another year, but that doesn't really matter. That's still, we now have this structure, which is from the prophecy of Josiah Litch, matching Samuel Snow's letters. And also that 126 that Daniel used to make that prediction off October 13th. What's that? And? I don't know. It's the most remarkable thing I've ever seen.
Well, what's it mean then?
Well, that's what we have to figure out. I can do the math.
Say it's that remarkable if you don't know what it means.
Well, you can, because you know that it means something's happening on the 10th day of the 5th month in the year 2020. Based upon everything else we've seen with these lines, that has to be what it's telling us. And that's what we're first looking at. The reason we put July 18th on this line is this is a symbol of the destruction of Jerusalem. The probation for the priests closes here. That's how we're understanding it. I got an email yesterday from James Coulter, who was here as a student, and he asked me about the 10th day of the 5th month, before we had done any of this, dealing with this, because we just did this morning. But he asked me, and he says, shouldn't we be using the 10th day as the 5th month for the destruction or the fall of the Seventh-day Adventist Church? That was his question. So he already was recognizing that we should be doing something with this date, just based on other things that we had talked about, not bringing in that line of Ezekiel line on his left side and so forth. So, you know, this here then, to put it down and line it up with Samuel Snow's letters, tells us with unmistakable clarity that that event is significant in the symbolism that it possesses, the destruction of Jerusalem. And that has to refer to the Seventh-day Adventist Church in some way. Now in Ezekiel 20, what happens in Ezekiel 20? What's the event that starts it? Because I asked you this near the beginning here. But it's what do they do when the elders come? They inquire. So what does this mean that they inquire after Ezekiel? I mean, because we're Ezekiel, we're Samuel Snow.
It's the Levites responding to the crisis at midnight.
Yeah, so there are people wanting to have some light from us. Is that how you would understand it? Yeah.
Is the destruction of Jerusalem also because Jerusalem is also the glorious land? So why that has to be the fall of Adventism and not maybe the fall of the United States?
Jerusalem isn't.
Okay, does anybody want to answer his question? His question is, why does the 10th day of the 5th month, why can't it be a symbol of the fall of the United States and not the fall of Adventism? You know, because I'm just throwing out this, I have no idea really to answer it. I mean, I have some ideas, but I don't know if they're right. Yes, Graham?
What Sister Tess roughly laid out is that Panium looks like it could be around 2021.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't have what we would call the midnight cry until after 2021, and we see that the USA is victorious in that battle. So it would be hard to place the fall of the glorious land before.
Yeah, so everybody follow that.
Yeah.
The fall of the glorious land is the Battle of Panium, and that's 2021. Now, initially, yes?
From the very beginning, not dealing with what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
But the argument's always been is that the glorious land was a land and the glorious holy mountain was a church. Jerusalem's a church, glorious land's
Yeah.
a land. They're not
Okay.
the same symbol.
Yeah.
But typically, in opposition to what Graham's saying about Sister Tess, Jerusalem is marked at the midnight cry. It's going down and coming up. Old Jerusalem's going down at
Yeah.
the midnight cry, and New Jerusalem's coming up. Typically, you would mark the end of the Seventh-day Adventist Church at the midnight cry, which you're kind of implying is 2020, and Graham's saying, Tess says, is 2021.
Yeah, so we still have a lot to sort out. Now we do know that this particular line here from October 13th, this is the close of probation for the priests. So I would believe that we have a message to give the priests for the next year. And God's giving us that message in different ways. So I'm sure, you know, my stuff is not going to be the end of it. Tessa's stuff isn't the end of it. I'm sure that God has many other people going to give similar testimony that corroborates and actually helps explain maybe some of the things we're grappling with here. That's my view. But I would know then that once we get here, who are we going to be giving a message to? Because if the message, probations for the priest closes here, who then do we go to? We go to Levites. And so at some point in here, maybe this inquiry has something to do with that. But the thing is, it's marked so strongly, it has to be some very, very significant event. Yes, Graham.
At the Battle of Raphia, that's where you see the Sunday law begin for the Levites. So in between that period, if 2021 is a date, between 2019 and 2021, during that Sunday law period, you would have a loud cry for the Levites. So that inquiry could be a response to the loud cry.
Okay.
Amen. That's it.
I'm kind of worn out. I'm trying. I mean, we can look at some of these other lines. Maybe I shouldn't have presented this right away. But it answers some of our questions that people have had about the previous lines. Because this line confirms the line above. So let's look at our paper again. And so the first one, which has the typo, we could maybe go through and correct typos or something. But the first line there, and I'm not going to draw them out again. We just kind of discuss them a little bit more quickly. I might draw some things if we need some visual help with it. But the first one is simply the line on his side for 390 days. And you see I put the arrows there, both pointing, that date, the 10th day of the 5th month, is August 15th, 591 BC.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Isn't it kind of hot in here?
Yes.
Yeah.
How can we turn that down?
It's
It's
not
not
on.
on?
There's air coming out.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I'm really hot. Yeah. Well, I don't know if they put much heat. Now, that next line, the one that is Ezekiel, so when you look at the one that says July 27th, that's on the Gregorian calendar, so normally you would use the Julian calendar in BC dates. But that should be 590 BC, not 592. On that first line on the bottom, on the top of the page, first line, where it says July 27th, that year is 590 BC. Right, of course it's the 10th day of the 5th month. But July 27th is the significant date because it's the date that starts the next line down right next to it below, right? July 27th, 1299. And then July 18th, right, that's the date we're dealing with that we're putting in 2020. That's on the Julian calendar. And it's on the Julian calendar in our history as well. But it's the 10th day of the 5th month on the rabbinic calendar. So it's actually a different date. It's August 18th on the biblical calendar. So it is a different date. But
Can I ask
Yeah.
And I know you've covered this, but I just can't figure it out. On your 2020 date there, I understand how you derived it from the verse, and I don't have any problem with that. That seems fine. What I'm not understanding, just because I don't understand dates, is how did you get to July 18th to July 31st by just a date?
Okay.
I get
It's a good question.
just the date. I don't just
so I-
the days.
So I have this date, which in the year 2020, the biblical calendar and the rabbinic calendar are the same, which is nice.
I actually get even that. How do you get the 10th day of the 5th month just from the 2020 is what I'm saying.
Okay, what I did is it's in Ezekiel chapter 20. When the elders come and inquire, it's the 10th day of the 5th month. Right? So on that first line that you see on the top of the page, where the elders come and inquire, that's 520 BC, and that's the 10th day of the 5th month. So that's the date. Now it's July 27th on the Gregorian calendar in 590 BC. But when I take that date and I put it in 2020, and I'm putting it in 2020 because Ezekiel 20 is pointing to 2020. So I put it here, and that's the date I get. And so that date to me suggested, well, that's the last date of Samuel Snow's letters. So that's very significant because I'm using the second day of the 4th month, which in 1844 is also July 18th. I'm using that to mark the beginning of this 120 days. So for me, I'm really happy with that. What I didn't expect is that when Daniel asked the question, when I count back 391 and a half days, what dates will I come up with? So the fact that I came up with the second letter, or the third letter, from the 4th letter to the 3rd letter with that span, blew my mind. I was actually shopping when I was doing these calculations. And then I counted 120 days on my fingers, and I came to February 22nd. And then I knew, of course, then that's going to be 6 more days to February 16th. So I knew that that whole structure that we have here is repeated.
That's why it fits better, is because 2 of the other ones fit when you add the date ranges.
Yeah. And now we know that halfway between February 16th and June 22nd is April 19th. And these dates here are all on the Julian calendar.
But that, I suppose that's the same here, right? Halfway,
These are all Gregorian calendar?
yeah, but halfway between February 16th and June 22nd, shouldn't it be here, April 19th? Right? Because you have the same structure
It
there.
depends.
Only if
This
you have
is a leap year.
If you have a leap year, yeah, okay. It's 127 days.
And that's also,
Yeah.
2019 isn't a leap year. So there's a difference.
127.
But it'll still be very close. But the point is, in this one, it's more important because this is not using the structure of the 391.5 because this is in the same year.
Let
Right?
me ask you some questions about that
Okay.
up there. That line you were just,
Yeah,
you don't have to have April 13th in there, right?
April
It's
3.
not-
April
It's
3.
not illustrated in the line you discovered.
No, no.
And you don't have to have June 27th.
I just wanted the Passover in there, yeah.
You
And I
have
don't
to
need
do
this.
that. Yeah, but by
Yeah,
doing
I know,
that,
it's redundant.
you're cluttering it up
It
to
clutters it.
follow the logic.
So this is the first letter, which is represented, in that history, it's represented by the 120 and the 126 going from here. Right? And then we have April 19th that is in the middle, and you would probably find it's probably, because it's one day different, but the other one you're starting with ordinal counting. This one here you could do it with cardinal counting and it would work. So both are fine. And then this May 2nd is here in this history, but in this year, in 2019, this is actually a Gregorian date that's over top of this date. So this is, in this history, you'll see April 19th is May 2nd.
Repeat that, sorry.
So May 2nd is here, But May 2nd in 2019 is the same date as April 19th is on the Julian. And we've already recognized that May 2nd is symbolizing events here on the first day of the first month, because this is representing a separation. That's why I had the false Passover and the true Passover here. April 19th divides those. And, you know, the thing is, there's these chiasms within this that I never really thought about before.
That one, those get merged together on this one over here because they're the same date once you get over there.
Yeah, they're the same date, one Julian, one Gregorian. Yes. So,
Can you do me a favor?
okay. Yeah.
Wipe out everything below your line.
Okay, just like this.
Yeah.
Except that's Pentecost, but okay, let's do
but
that.
we know that, okay?
Okay,
Wipe it all out.
okay.
So what I'm saying is, even the fifth day, we've established that every one of those, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 waymarks on that line.
Yeah,
You've established that every one of those waymarks in Samuel Snow's history correspond to a biblical waymark. February 22nd, dedication of the temple. April 19th, Ezra leaves Babylon. May 2nd is Passover. June 22nd is
Pentecost,
July 18th,
3 days before midnight.
the midst of the week. So now
Yeah,
draw
it's-
that
yeah.
line that you discovered underneath it. The bottom line.
Yeah.
So it's parallel.
Underneath this
Draw
one.
it underneath.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
And don't clutter it up with all the extra dates.
Yeah. Okay, so if we draw it here, what I have is February 16th. So this is 2019. I have February 22nd. This date here, April 19th, which is Julian, is May 2nd, Gregorian.
Cluttering it up.
What?
You're cluttering it up, but I get it.
Well, I need that May 2nd there.
Yeah, but I mean, you've got it above.
No, you do.
Right?
Okay, so you're saying I should put it...
I just
Put
I think
arrows
I
to merge
illustrated
them
simply
together.
where they
Okay, I see what you're
the
saying.
marks line up.
May
where everyone
2nd.
can see.
And these are...
One.
Yep, perfect.
Yeah,
That's
that's
a
better.
point. See?
Yep.
And then June 22nd.
Yeah.
Please fix the two. The other two.
Question mark too next to May.
May 2nd.
And then this is 391.5 days. And that's July 18th, 2020. And they're all Julian, except this one is a Gregorian.
And even your little arch of 126 and 120 is in agreement with both lines agree.
Yeah, you end up with the chiasm there.
That's Samuel Snow's history illustrating 2019, 2020.
Yeah.
And that's not even dealing with the line that leads into that begins in Italy.
Yeah. No, yeah.
And the only thing we might have questions about is whether we can really have confidence in the premise that you've made about these calendar dates.
Well, I don't think, I would
I
think
think it's
this
airtight.
verifies it. You know, actually the week of Christ that I did on, you know, last,
But what I mean by that is you do it, you have it in your head.
yeah, people have to spend
No one
time.
else in here that I know of that can go up there and do that and have a personal confidence that they really have seen that
Yeah,
interchanging in calendars. I have confidence. I believe you. I mean, even
yeah.
though
Oh, I know you do.
But
But,
that's pretty profound stuff.
yeah. Okay, so Brittany had a question.
Earlier you mentioned the cardinal versus ordinal counting, and I wasn't sure why
Okay,
why April 19 wouldn't be like a day off.
yeah.
If on the top line you use cardinal and the bottom line you use
Okay.
ordinal. Or no, the other way around, something like that.
Okay, so when we're going here from February 16th, and we're counting in this line, there's no leap year in 2019. But there was a leap year in 1844.
What is it?
What's that?
What's the leap?
A leap
The
year?
day is.
Okay.
Yeah.
366 day here.
Yeah, so you get February 29th in 1844. You don't get February 29th here. And so what Daniel did is he counted here. So it's 126 days, but he had to start here as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What's that? February? 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yeah, so this would end up being 7, just in that type of counting, because you're starting at 1, not at 0. Where here you would start 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's cardinal counting. Cardinal counting, anytime you use math, you're using cardinal numbers because math has a 0 in it. But if you're saying this is the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, you don't have a 0. And so this was a discussion that Daniel and I had where he was trying to count things that cardinally he was counting them ordinally, and he would not count this day. What's that?
The top one is cardinal or
This is cardinal, ordinal.
Yeah, I think we have to do it otherwise to. Oh no, that's correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's correct. We have
Yeah.
to do cardinal on 1844.
But the point is, something that I didn't notice before, that means April 19th is the center of a chiasm, and you think I would have noticed that. So,
But it's midway.
yeah, and because these are all Gregorian numbers, these are all Julian numbers, except this one.
But that's not a different one though.
What's that?
That's not like a different
a date. This is a Gregorian date,
one. But that's April 9th.
but it's this date.
Yeah, that's my point.
Exactly.
It's not a different one.
Yes,
Like,
okay.
I'm gonna try to define something for my wife, and I'm
Okay.
probably gonna define it wrong, so you can correct me.
Okay.
But ordinal numbers are when you're establishing an order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
First,
6,
2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th.
But cardinal requires the full amount. So you have to go all the way to the end of the first day, and you got 1. It's not a 0. You got to use that. That's the part I'm explaining wrong. Explain cardinal, cardinal, and in contrast.
Here's a good way to look at cardinal. The way we count our ages, we're 1 when we've completed 1 year, right? But if you just say this is your first year of life, you're counting ordinally, right? So a baby in its first year of life, he's not 1, but you can say it's his first year.
or we could say it's 0.
You're actually
Cardinal.
0
It's-
when you're born, right?
Yeah, cardinal. Yeah, you can say you're 0 years old if you could talk.
As in 1 year.
Okay, that was a good question. Now, was there anybody else who had a question?
It was
You didn't have a question? Yeah. Tamina?
What does the cardinal and the ordinal do now with these lines? What is the purpose?
It was
of
just
having
when
them?
we put April 19th in the middle
Uh-huh.
of 126, or 120 days, pardon me, 126, I think it's 126.
Yep.
Yeah,
126.
Yeah, it's the 126 that we need to divide. And that's because we can divide it over here in this line from June 9th to October 13th, 2018. Daniel figured out on July 27th, he made note of the fact that he was going to predict an event on October 13th using this 126. And he noted it on July 27th. And the center of this is August 11th. So we know July 27th and August 11th is this. So the structure, the numbers that are here are part of the structure, and it's impossible to have occurred by chance. That's what I keep saying, but it's true. Like, it's beyond anything imaginable, really, that we could ever expect. Now, just a point, because we're dealing with time setting of sorts, right? It's time setting. We're using time in our message, and time has been in our message for a long time, but we weren't really paying attention to it. We were calling it event setting. But when we started first to discuss the idea that we could be setting a date, my view was that it's going to be something that's extremely solid. It's going to come from several different lines, and it's going to be unmistakable. That is, it wouldn't be something that's just, somebody comes up with some date, I got some neat little numbers, and I think it's going to happen here, or, Trump is going to have an election, so, the Sunday law is going to come before that or something. I mean, those are maybe could be true things, but you'd have to have something way more solid in order to establish a date. This is the most solid possible way to establish this objectively is mathematics. Yes. Do you have a comment, Clayton? No,
No, sorry, playing with my pen.
Okay. Daniel.
I don't know if everybody got the cardinal and ordinal. Something that helped me to understand about cardinal and ordinal, I think may help others. Look to February 16, and then let's say that's my first day of work. So that's my first day of work. I start counting as one, my first day. But if I go to February 17, that's my second day of work. But when I come to February 17, I worked just for one day, the beginning of my work day. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So February 17, I worked just for one day, but that's my second day of work. I think it may help someone. The other thing is not about me, but we have been talking today with some people. I know that some people still have some doubts about why you connect June 15 and then you have 13 years. And then you're saying June 15 again, so I think it will
Okay, and I wanted to address that point. And so this is in your notes. Let's look at those. So it's your third line. And this third line is the one that starts on Pentecost in June 9th, 2017. This is in Italy. The Elder Jeff does this 120-minute presentation.
That's June 2nd.
That's June 2nd. I got them backwards. You're right. See, lots of typos in here. Okay, so change that one. It is June 2nd.
And the fourth line is June 9th.
Yeah, I got them inverted. Because I was copying and pasting and rushing to get it done. That's my excuse. But, and it's a good, true excuse. So June 2nd, right. So June 2nd, 2017 for 120 minutes. And then that's also June 2nd where it says 9:11 p.m., right? Because that's the same day. It's June 2nd. At 9:11 p.m., he kneels down, and that begins the Sabbath. And then we can count 391.5 days from that, and that just gives us a date. Gives us the date June 15th, 2018 on the Julian calendar. Okay? So it's just a date. We're not marking any event particularly on that date in the Julian calendar. Now when we go to the next line, which is June 9th, this is when Elder Jeff kneeled down to open the Sabbath, close the Sabbath, pardon me, yes. So close the Sabbath at 9:11 p.m. in Italy. And that counts, and that was the date that Daniel was using to predict October 13th.
Actually, it was November 10th, but
okay.
He was using ordinal.
Yeah, so he was using June 10th, but he was using ordinal, so he was counting the last day of the camp meeting as 1, but actually if you count from June 9th as 0, then you get to October 13th. So,
Well, technically, was this the 9th, was it the one that began at sunset that night, or was it the 9th earlier that morning?
The morning.
So technically, this was still the 10th.
Yeah, because sunset.
Yes.
yeah, okay. Yeah, when it comes to dealing with Gregorian and Julian dates, it's midnight, okay? It's not sunset that the day begins. If you're dealing with biblical dates, it's sunset. So it's still June 9th. It's not June 10th, okay? It's important because you need to make these distinctions when you're dealing with calendars. It's very, very important. It's not, I mean, I know we laugh about it, but it is important. So this marks a period of 126 days. But I also noticed that it was 120 days, so I'm using the structure of Josiah Litch's prophecy and of the kings of Judah. So the kings of Judah, the first 3 kings, are 120 years, and from the dividing of the kingdom, it's 390 years and 6 months. So that becomes 120 days and 391.5 days. So by counting, yeah, so that chiasm's in the wrong place. But when we count 120 days from June 15th is the 2nd day of the 4th month. That's July 18th in 1844. So when I went back 120 days, I came to a significant date, the last letter of Samuel Snow. So I knew then that 120 days is not arbitrary, even though I had nothing, no event to mark it. Right? I have nothing that I know of that happened on June 15th in 2018. Okay?
But you said it was what in Samuel Snow's history?
It's the last letter. The 2nd day of the 4th month is July 18th. Right? So the fact that it's July 18th, or it's that symbol, the 2nd day of the 4th month, then I could say it's important. But also, in the line above, it ends on June 15th, though on the Julian calendar, which is 13 days difference. So it would be ending 13 days later. But the thing is, I give that same symbol, so I can now connect the 2 prayers through these lines. But they are separate lines, but the date that ends the one is the date that starts the other, even though they're 13 days apart, because one's Gregorian and one's Julian. But the thing is, we can do that because we're doing it other places. And then, of course, we know about what happened on noon October 13th, so counting the 391.5 days. And then at the bottom, I just have, again, the prophecy of Josiah and Ezekiel. So I have that model of the 120 years and the 390 years. But if you add the 18 months at the end, you can see that the kings of Judah run for 391.5 years. So I'm exhausted. Yes, Brittany.
I know you got asked this already, but I don't understand June 15 because I thought the last of Samuel Snow's letters was...
Okay, so you don't understand June
The last
15th.
of Samuel Snow's letters was a different day.
Yeah, because this is the 2nd day of the 4th month. Because this is the 5th day of the 4th month. So 3 days before is the 2nd day of the 4th month. In 2018, I'm counting from the 2nd day of the 4th month. That date is June 15th. It's not July 18th.
Where are you at? I'm sorry.
I'm on the...
Second line from the bottom.
Yeah, the 2nd line from the bottom. It says June 15th, 2nd day, 4th month.
And June 15 is which calendar? On this
That's the
line?
Gregorian calendar.
2018.
Yeah. But it's also marked on the Julian calendar in the line right above it. If I go from June 2nd, 2017, and I count 391.5 days, I'll come to June 15th on the Julian calendar. So that date is marked on one calendar that starts at the end of this, that starts the line on the next line, but on a different calendar. But the fact is, it's the same date. And so as a symbol, it can be used to start that. But it's not the same day, it's 13 days apart. The Gregorian occurs 13 days before the Julian date. The Julian date, right now, Julian dates are 13 days behind. My Ukrainian friends have Christmas 13 days after everybody else. Yes?
I'm sorry, I'm trying to catch up with you. Just for me to recall, in 2018, 2nd day of the 4th month is June 15th, and in the year 2020, 2nd day of the 4th month is July 18th.
June.
Or it was in the year 1844. What we said this morning.
Yeah. I didn't follow you because my brain's fried.
On July 18th, 2020, you said it was the second day of the fourth month.
Okay, no.
It's the 10th.
This is the 10th day of the 5th month.
Is that what you
Um,
were saying to me?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking, Samson.
That one is.
Because there it says second day of fourth month,
You
July
should write
18th.
Millerite
That's
or Samuel Snow
That's
there.
1844.
Yeah. Or just.
Snow?
Yeah, because.
You're lining up with the waymark above, and she was looking at it, associating it with the line below.
Oh, okay.
It goes upward.
Well, they're both July 18th, right?
Right.
But in 2020, July 18th is the 10th day of the 5th month.
And you had the second day of the fourth month.
Yeah.
In 1844, it was the second day of the 4th month.
Those things move.
What calendars?
I can't remember. This is Julian.
The one at the
These are
bottom
all Julian. This is Gregorian.
And both are from biblical calendars.
And both are from biblical calendars.
Yeah.
For instance, in 2020, the biblical and the rabbinic calendars are the same that year. And that happens about a quarter of the time. Right? So it's not that uncommon. Okay, Brittany?
So June 15, on the second line from the bottom, the second day of the fourth month. That's being pointed out because the second day of the fourth month was a day of Samuel Snell's letter.
Yes. Because it's the same date biblically as Samuel Snow's last letter was written, I could mark it as significant that the 120 days that precedes October 13th, 2018, is a proper period. That 120 days already is a symbol just from that date alone. I don't have to have an event in 2018 to mark it. Right? That's the way I look at it. I have a symbol that points to it. But I do have an event that marks the 126 days that ends on October 13th. And that event is Elder Jeff's prayer that closed the Sabbath.
Okay.
Right, at 9/11. So we have two things that point to October 13th as a predicting something in October 13th that will then be 391.5 days. Right, so that 391.5 days from October 13th at noon at Lambert Church, when I do that calculation, to midnight, November 9th, 2019, is not an arbitrary, it's not I'm just picking and finding, Tessa's date happens to be 391 and a half days from October 13th when Daniel's presenting, but I have a whole bunch of lines that point to that date and connect it with Samuel Snow's letters. And especially with this last line, we can see that this is Samuel Snow's letters. So we can't dismiss any of this structure because this is mathematically impossible to have occurred by chance, only by design. And so God designed this. So yes, so what's your question further?
To establish it, we'd have to work backwards from the fourth line to the third line. Because on the third line, we wouldn't have June 15.
No, on that fourth line there, I have June 15th. It's the second day of the fourth month. So that was the first line I did.
And that's there because of Samuel Snell's letters.
So on October 13th, when I noticed it was 391.5 days, I counted 150 days back, or 120 days back. And I did so because I knew that 39.15 was a day for a year for the kings of Judah. And I knew that there's 120 years for the kings of Judah in the united Israel. And so when I saw that it was the second day of the fourth month, and I knew that the second day of the fourth month is Samuel Snow's last letter, I knew that that wasn't chance. But I also knew that Daniel had made a prediction based on 126 days, but I didn't fully understand his argument, what it was. And he says that on July 27th, he counted from the camp meeting, the last day of the camp meeting, June 10th, he counted 126 days to October 13th. So he was expecting at Lambert Church on Sabbath the midnight cry to be presented. not realizing that he's giving this message on time setting about November 9th, expecting somebody else was going to do it. He didn't know that I was calculating this and creating this structure that pointed to November 9th. We then had a second witness, and that was that this prayer had occurred in 2017 in Italy, and that it produced the same structure. And then we had another witness in that we also could connect that 126 days to a prayer that happened at 9/11 that was ending the Sabbath instead of opening it. We also then could see that the 126 days, not the 120 days, the 126 days, August 11th is the center of that chiasm. And so since it's the center of that chiasm, and Daniel is predicting on July 27th the end of that chiasm, that's a miracle, right? That cannot be chance. You know, Daniel didn't make it because he didn't know about all this. So when he gave that testimony, I think it was at a prayer meeting, you know, he did not know anything about this. And so he couldn't have made it up because he wouldn't have known. Yes, Elder Jeff.
Also, just at July 27th, I get spurred on to bring July 27th into the issue, and then he says that's what I predicted. But just for Brittany, on the third line in the middle, the 120-minute presentation ends with the opening of Sabbath on June 2nd in 2017, and then 391 days takes you to June 15th, okay, and a half days. So this next line that begins with the Sabbath closing on June 9th at 9/11, that 9/11 at the beginning of that line lines up with the 9/11 in the middle of the line right above it, and the very next waymark in both instances is June 15th.
Okay.
So you've got a waymark structure there that ties it in as well.
Yeah.
That he hasn't addressed.
Yeah, and that's why I put them initially together as one line, but they actually are two separate lines, but they're chained together. Yes.
So my follow-up question is, the end of the 391 on the third line is a different day in the Gregorian, and the reason you chose June 15 is because it's in the Julian and it's already upheld in the next line? Is that?
Yeah, because it ends on a June 15 on the Julian, that marks the June 15th on the Gregorian, even though it's going to be 13 days later. Now, the reason, we understand that these are symbols, these are not events. I'm not marking an event on June 15th in either of those. But I do have an event on June 9th. And that line above gives testimony to that because of the structure of the 120 minutes and the 391.5 days. It's in a sense a minor line, but it's a line that's meant to give testimony to that main line from June 9th to November 9th, right? And then we have, of course, this line here, which is Samuel Snow's letters. So Samuel Snow's letters tell us exactly the same story that all these other lines tell us, but they tell us in a way that is impossible to have occurred by chance. I know I keep repeating that, but I'm still in shock with this. So, Daniel.
I think an easy way to understand that is to look to the symbol in the structure. If you go to the third line, you put your finger in June 15, you think that as a symbol.
Yeah.
That's a computer. June 15 equals a computer, whatever calendar is. So you go to the fourth line, and then you look, oh, June 15, computer again. So you have this symbol there, and this symbol marks something. Doesn't have to happen something. What happened in July 27, 1449?
Nothing.
Nothing. It's just a connection between the first prophecy and the second prophecy.
Yeah.
The beginning of the first woe happened something, but the connection of both prophecy, nothing happened.
So all this stuff is in, if you understand the first and second woe, we have the calendars, because we have a Julian date here ending with a Gregorian date that was not taken into account. We have a date that's just floating in space. July 27th, 1449, nothing occurs. All that it is that this period of 150 years ends. And since that period ends, the second woe begins. But there's no event that marks the commencement of the second woe on July 27th. But we then mark 391 point...
Ever been discovered.
That's ever been discovered. Right. So maybe something happened on June 15th.
July 27th.
No, but I mean in our line.
Oh.
On that June
Yeah.
15th that we're talking about there. Maybe something even happened on both of those June 15ths that's extremely significant, and we don't even know about it yet. And we might even find out about what happened July 27th, 1449 that we don't know about. I don't know. But the point is, we have a precedent in that prophecy to do that. But it also becomes a symbol, right? And that's the thing, is that we're dealing with symbols. Now, we have all this math that actually works. I mean, this here, to have these Julian dates line up with these Gregorian dates, except that the one has 391.5 days because it's in a different year. I can figure out the mathematical possibilities for you, but you're dealing with a dozen or more zeros, right? So you're dealing with something that's, you're way more likely, to win a lottery, but you would never bet on those types of odds. You never bet anyway, but you understand what I'm saying? Okay, Daniel?
The only thing that I think we're going to do this with Jeff when we're understanding the logic, the structure, but at least for me, when it goes to application, that's the hard point of it for me. Like you said, I was presenting about 2019. I wasn't presenting anything about 2019. I was talking about 2018 in that 7. So I wasn't giving any prediction. So I don't know how to apply that and make any application about that. We see the structure. I see the structure. For me, it's black and white there. It's like, we can see it's there. But when it comes to application and identify why and what it is, that's the hard part for me.
Yeah, we don't know, fully understand it yet.
That was the next step. We wanted to get familiar with the lines.
But yeah, we need to get familiar with the lines. Okay, Alyssa?
Down below October 13th, you have the 15th day of the 8th month, which I know it's not how you line it up, but you've said this before. You've used the month and the day to be a symbol for August 8th.
Even though that's a biblical date.
Sorry, August 15th.
August 15th.
1844 is the true midnight cry.
Yeah. That's why I placed the midnight cry for the priests at October 13th, because the symbol is there. But we know that the symbol sometimes shows up different places. So, we also know that the symbol is there, the 15th day of the 8th month is there in the bottom one below, the very bottom one, November 22nd, the 15th day of the 8th month in 977. And so that's a symbol of the midnight cry. And we have that show up in other lines as well. So I need to really sort what's that?
Let's begin dealing with that on Sunday.
Yeah.
I think what we can look to is the fact that the Lord has opened all of this up. First through test, then the second witness with the calendars, and now the third witness with these expanding lines. So I think we can have really easy confidence that the Lord's going to bring this into clarity. He's brought us this far. This is going to come into crystal clear understanding.
That's what he did with Fitch.
Yeah.
Lich.
Okay, Tamina?
Probably doesn't mean anything, but I find it kind of funny that the videos of the Italian camp meeting in 2017 were starting to be published on June 22.
Oh, really?
What was that last part?
They began to be published on June 22.
The Italian camp meeting, yeah. So, okay, Heidi?
I have like one simple question, I
Okay.
promise. It's like a yes or no question, so
Okay.
it's not a big deal. That top line, is that 1844?
Yes. Yeah, that's Samuel Snow's letters in 1844. The bottom lines starts in 2019 and goes to 2020.
Thank you.
Yeah, Rick or Jim.
Just for clarity, on your fifth line for Ezekiel, are you wanting to illustrate the prophecy or the acts of the prophet?
So the bottom line,
Yeah.
I'm illustrating the prophecy of Josiah, which is the 300, or not, the prophecy of Ezekiel, the 390 years. Oh, but it says 390 with that thing that should say 350, that typo you're talking about?
Well,
Yeah, that should say 350
Depends on
from
what you're trying to
977 to 627.
they should also end in the same year if it's the prophecy.
Yeah, yes. So that's the prophecy of Josiah is given in 977. It's 350 years, not 390 years. The one at the bottom, just above the 391.5. So there's another typo. It ends in 627, and that's not a time prophecy. That's just 1 Kings 13 and 2 Kings 23. And then the 40 years ends at the same time as 390. But then the 18 months from the siege to the destruction of Jerusalem shows you that whole line is 391.5 years.
Are these notes online?
No, not yet.
After you take out the fix them.
I'm going to fix everything.
The notes from this morning too.
Yes, I'm going to go through them and get them up.
They're on the class. Anyone who goes to class can download that.
Yeah, so, yeah, I'm just going to include this in the notes. I'm going to try to rewrite them a little better. And I have no explanation. All I did here is quickly threw this together. I was kind of burned out, so that's why all the typos. Okay, so are we going to close then? Okay. Well, let's close with prayer. Dear Father in heaven, thank you again for the light that's shining on our path as we have walked over the ground and passed over the ground, and that this light from past events is reflecting and shining forward. We know, Lord, that it's sometimes hard to comprehend these things, but we know what we've seen here in the classes today, the inquiring minds and the desire to know truth. We ask, Lord, that you can honor your promise, that if we search for this hidden treasure, if we search with all of our heart, that we can find and understand the things in your word. So we just pray that you can be with each person, be with our thoughts and our actions until we come together again to study. And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.